about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So apparently the state of Kansas has filed a lawsuit against pharmaceutical company Pfizer over the COVID-19 vaccine. This is for alleged consumer protection violations related to their manufacturing of the vaccine, saying the company marketed the shot as safe even though it knew the vaccine was connected to serious adverse events. According to this lawsuit that was filed today at the District Court of Thomas County, they say Pfizer misled the public that it had a, quote, safe and effective COVID-19 vaccine. It's a 69-page lawsuit. It says Pfizer said its COVID-19 vaccine was safe, even though it knew its COVID-19 vaccine was connected to serious adverse events, including myocarditis and pericarditis, failed pregnancies, and death. The suit says that Pfizer concealed this critical safety information from the public. Pfizer said its COVID-19 vaccine was effective, even though it knew its COVID vaccine waned over time and did not protect against COVID-19 variants. Pfizer concealed this critical effectiveness information from the public, according to the lawsuit. So the lawsuit alleges that the company's actions and statements relating to the COVID-19 vaccine violated the Kansas Consumer Protection Act, regardless of whether any individual consumer ultimately received the COVID-19 vaccine. So they say Pfizer needs to be held accountable, quote unquote, for falsely representing the benefits of its vaccine while concealing and suppressing the truth about its vaccine safety risks, warning effectiveness, and inability to prevent transmission. So this suit was filed by the Republican Attorney General Chris Kobach, and it alleges that through the company's misrepresentations of the vaccine, it earned $75 billion in 2 years. They say the lawsuit alleges that millions of Kansasans heard Pfizer's misrepresentations about its COVID-19 vaccine. They said, for example, Pfizer administered 3.3 million Pfizer vaccine doses in Kansas as of February 7th, 2024, 60% of all vaccine doses in Kansas. And they say that Pfizer used various methods to conceal critical data related to the safety and effectiveness of the vaccine, including using confidentiality agreements, an extended timeline, and, quote, destroying the control group participating in its vaccine trial. Now, here's the thing, okay? If you're going to do this, do it right. I, as you all know, I'm a fan of Pfizer Pharmaceuticals because they have had some amazing products. Their Lipitor, their Norvasc, their Z-Pak, their Viagra. I can't tell you how many lives have been saved based on their medications. And so I have always, if I had to choose a pharmaceutical company, I have been very impressed with some of their pharmaceuticals. Then came the COVID-19 vaccine. And as a physician, I got to be honest and I have to be objective. Well done for being the first one to make it, to market. I understand it was a race, and to have the data that was available and you know, for the FDA to approve, no small feat. I am grateful to the Trump administration for helping get the pharmaceutical companies organized and on the ball with trying to get a vaccine for COVID, because I do feel we needed a COVID vaccine. The Biden administration helped roll them out, but I discredit the Biden administration for their approach with the mandate. When people said, look, thank you for making a vaccine, but I want to learn about it a little bit more. I want to watch and wait. No. And it was an absolute mess in terms of anybody who said, look, can I see what's going on with the natural immunity? Can I get tested first before you make me take the shot? Can you not fire people in our military? No, that wasn't an option. So that concerns me. And so with Pfizer, the first thing that made me a little concerned, and no offense to Pfizer, but I'm being objective, was Pfizer had said originally there was 90% efficacy against the COVID vaccine, against the COVID virus. Moderna came out saying, hey, we're 94% effective. And then within a day or two, Pfizer came out saying, nope, we're 95%. Now, I found that very odd because I had reported on them saying it was 90% effective. How did the percentage quickly change to supersede Moderna so quickly? So that needs some transparency. I'm not calling foul, but that deserves a little transparency. Where did it go from 90 when they first came out? When Moderna came out, then they go, oh, sorry, we're 95. We could beat Moderna by 1%. That was just a little odd. And then when people were bringing up myocarditis, I think in Canada, they started to limit young men from getting Moderna vaccines because of the myocarditis risk. There was a higher Moderna myocarditis risk than the Pfizer risk. It was hush-hushed, not by Pfizer, but just by the public health officials. This, if the group is going to prove that they quote-unquote destroyed the control, I'd like to know what that meant, et cetera. This could be easy to prove. If it did look like data, emails, like the Fauci emails with cover-ups and, we need to use personal so it's not a part of the Information Freedom Act. If we do find that there was that sort of correspondence, then they have a case. Slam dunk. But if Pfizer says, look, we did say it causes this, and this, we submitted it to the FDA, you're mad at the FDA, not us, then that also needs to be looked at. So I was under the impression that Pfizer did disclose the list of issues, and as more issues came about, they got added to the list. Remember, Viagra was released and FDA approved, and then people were dropping because they realized, whoa, you cannot take Viagra with nitrates if you're taking a nitroglycerin for your heart. So then they had to go and say, so Pfizer is allowed to add the information, but there has to be that transparency. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this case if they did try to cover up or not. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Aye, aye, aye. You know, that's how I feel. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show, 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. I'm a little overwhelmed with AI, what it means, what's it going to do to my industry in medicine and radio. And joining us back again, one of my favorites, Michael Harrison, publisher of Talkers Magazine and lead singer in this latest work of Gun Hill Road. Michael Harrison, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be with you, Dr. Daliah. Aye, aye, aye.
Aye, aye, aye. You know what? I love the title of your latest song, Artificial Intelligence. No robots were injured in the production of this song. Thank you for that disclaimer, because I'm sure somebody out there is worried.
Well, sure, and eventually that'll be an issue. Robots and humans will be vying for, I guess, we can't call them human rights, we can't call them robot rights, but maybe we'll call them sentience rights.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
That's what it's coming down to, ultimately.
Well, and that's why AI is, I think, also taking over. I think people are so afraid to misgender or upset or injure. And so one reason why tech and AI is such a high push is it starts to eliminate some of the human element, the liability element. And I got to tell you, I think the reason why your song worked wasn't the AI, was because it was you.
Well, how do you mean that?
No, because it was your voice. It was your personality. You can't AI Michael Harrison.
I see what you're saying. No, all the music in that song is organic. We have to admit, some of the images on the video, which can be seen at obsoleteslobs.com, which is a funny word, obsoleteslobs.com, the video was manufactured with the use of AI, but the actual music, Gun Hill Road's music, my voice, the whole thing, that's pure, old-fashioned, human, organic music.
I love it. So, Michael, you are like my go-to. You're my mentor. With media, you have your finger on the pulse. AI scares people because people think they're going to be out of jobs. What is your prediction?
Well, I think people will be out of jobs, and I think that people are going to have, those who do have jobs are going to have to up the bar and raise their skill and their performance, because you mentioned it affects you as a doctor, it affects you in medicine, it affects you in radio. I think that AI, artificial intelligence, and this latest iteration of the technological revolution that we are living through, I think it will have an impact on everybody. And one area of it is the area of jobs and pertinence. That's why we have one passage in the song that says, "We'll never get bored, but it's a double-edged sword. We might lose our jobs, become obsolete slobs." Mm-hmm. It's funny, but it's not funny. But all the way back to the Industrial Revolution, people were concerned about assembly lines and technology taking away people's jobs, and people have had to learn new skills. This is just part of being a human being and the human condition, the way we keep upping the ante and raising the bar on our technology and the skills it takes, the changing skills it takes to make a living. So that's part of it. But the real issue is going to be, how do we know what's real? How do we know what's true? How do we know the difference between a deep fake and something that is, deeply realistic? And one level beyond that is, what will it mean to be a human being? Now we're so polarized by whether you're on the left or you're on the right, whether you're white or you're black or something in between, or you're male or you're female or something in between. If you're a liberal, a Democrat, an American, a Chinese, all of these things, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, it's going to be, well, how human are you? Are you a human or are you something else? And we even see signs of it now when you go to certain websites. It says, are you a human or are you a robot? This is where we're heading. And then it'll ultimately bring up the theological question, the philosophical/theological question of, can sentience, can consciousness be created by complex circuitry, or will it always be an unfeeling machine that's smarter than us, but not more present than us, if you follow my drift?
So true.
These are questions. These are questions that are coming, highly philosophical. You, as a medical doctor, must find this very interesting. Is the human brain the cause of who we think we are, or is the human brain a tool that who we really are uses to function within this three-dimensional space called reality?
Well, when you hear people, you see, I remember kids in the schoolyard, the popular kid would say something, so then they all reiterated it. And it's like, where's your conscience? Where's your own thinking? Just because Jimmy decides to jump off a cliff doesn't mean you do. So, I think it is very subjective because we have abilities that we don't use. We don't use a part of our brain. We use calculators. We do speed dial instead of using, aspects of our brain, and it's we type instead of writing things out. And I think there is a metaphor to us becoming, robots, or like you say, obsolete slobs. If we're
right. Well, if people suppose that they can put a chip in your brain, suppose they can. They already can, but people start having chips in their brain that give them instant direct into the optic lobe, into the auditory lobe, into the centers of the various senses that we have, gives them the ability to experience that sense without it having to go through the ear or the eye. It goes right into your consciousness. And in that process, you're able to access everything that you can access now on your smartphone, but instantly in your head. That any question that comes up, you can access it. Any argument, all the talking points can be accessed, and the counter talking points. Just like the world's greatest Jeopardy players lost to Big Blue, the computer. The world's greatest chess players lose to computers.
Right.
They're not conscious, but they're programmed to have all this information instantaneously. Wouldn't you want to have a chip put in your head so that you're not stupid compared to the people that have them? And that's when people are going to be asking, how do I become a robot? How do I become the next iteration of Homo sapiens, maybe Homo technicus or something like that? That's where we're heading. The AI is to the brain what the wheel is to the foot.
So right. So right. We're speaking to Michael Harrison,
wow.
publisher of Talkers Magazine, as well as lead singer of this song with Gun Hill Road, Artificial Intelligence. No robots were injured in the production of this song, which I love. One of your images that you have here is the Oval Office. You see the American flag in back. You see the politicians, and then you see the robot in the center, looking like they're in control.
Right. It starts out questioning
powerful
the concept.
Oops,
yeah.
sorry.
Well, can you hear me? Am I getting through?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. It starts out with the question about we hold these truths to be self-evident, which is in the Declaration of Independence. Our entire culture, our civilization, is built on the premise that we all know certain things are obviously true, and then we build upon that. But then the images of a robot taking the oath of office to become president, and I, as the narrator at that point, before I break out into song, say, "Is anything self-evident anymore?" And right. Then they start with the part that you played on the air, AI, and yeah, we could have a robot running things. Yeah. It's possible.
And I think people want it. People would love nothing more than to dissect out the human of their medical visit just so they could get what they want. They're like, I want my antibiotic, I want my narcotic, this is, and let the robot, give it to them. People want fewer interactions with humans. So I see it happening, and I just love your song. Michael, your perspective is amazing, especially with you, and all you've done in media. In terms of media, where do you think AI is going to go?
I think the media is going to be tremendously influenced by AI. I think that we're going to have AI-created movies. We're going to have new Beatles songs. We're going to have new Clark Gable movies. We're going to be able to recreate any actor, any actress, any scenario. We're going to be able to engulf ourselves in virtual reality that will seem even more real than reality, and we're going to become addicted to it. Mm-hmm. We're not going to want to ever come out of our holodeck. We're going to just want to spend all our time there. I mean, you talk about addiction to drugs or alcohol. Imagine being able to go to a fantasy world where everything you want happens as you want it and there are no consequences. You'd never want to leave. You'd become addicted to the technology. So I think that this is where we're heading. And I think that we have got to create a society where we know up from down, right from wrong, good from evil, and have to figure out a way to live under the influence of our better angels as we enter this brave new world.
So true. Michael Harrison, one more time, give us the website for your song.
ObsoleteSlobs.com. ObsoleteSlobs.com. It's worth your while, folks, to check it out.
Awesome. Can't wait to have you back, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daliah.
All right, guys, don't go away. We'll be right back. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen, and big thanks to Daniel, our producer. So oftentimes, patients are calling me, especially with the stomach bug. There's real bad nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal cramps, bug going around. And patients will call saying they have the stomach bug, they have abdominal pain, they've been nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and the ibuprofen isn't helping. And the first thing I say is don't take ibuprofen. If you're having a stomach ailment, don't be taking ibuprofen. Ibuprofen is very caustic to the stomach. And I think we just need to have a little conversation about what to do and what not to do, because I think some people are doing things to themselves that they don't realize. So the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs were earth-shattering when it came to their production and use in medicine, because steroids have a lot more side effects. The non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs could sometimes provide some pretty equitable efficacy, depending on what you're taking it for. Not to mention, it can help with pain, and it can help by reducing fever. And how ibuprofen works is it blocks your ability to produce prostaglandins. Prostaglandins cause pain. So ibuprofen, with its prostaglandin blocking techniques and technology per se in pharmaceuticals, is a fantastic adjunct to people who have swelling, arthritis, pain, and other things. But there are side effects with it. It can raise your blood pressure. It can affect your kidneys. It could cause dizziness. It could cause vomiting, cause GI issues. It could worsen cardiac disease, cause heart failure. It could increase bleeding. And so I'll get patients call up saying, yeah, my daughter's period is really heavy. She's on ibuprofen. What else can we do? Why don't you stop the ibuprofen? The ibuprofen could be making her bleed more. So ibuprofen is good to use in small amounts for inflammation. If you have twisted your ankle, first apply ice or cold compresses while protecting the skin. Cool and ice is a very good anti-inflammatory. It's one of the best ones out there, better than ibuprofen. But sometimes if you have swelling that you can't control, ibuprofen or naproxen can help. Now keep in mind, why are you swelling? Well, you're swelling because your body is trying to protect that joint. If you twisted your ankle or you fractured a bone or got a little avulsion fracture or chip fracture from a twisting injury, the reason why your body is swelling is because it doesn't want you to walk on it and make it worse. So listen to the swelling. Let medical provider take a look at it and then decide. Now, the reason why some doctors are very aggressive with reducing swelling is the inflammatory fluid can worsen arthritis. And so sometimes we want to address it and minimize it. So we want the protective action and the healing action, but we also don't want the caustic action of it. And so the more inflammation you have, the more it can worsen the arthritis. That's why when you hurt yourself, if you didn't injure yourself severely, we tell you to keep being active, because the synovial fluid and the lubrication of you being active can help offset some of the inflammatory fluid and the pain that comes with it. So if you're swollen, inflamed, we will recommend anti-inflammatories. If you have stomach upset and stomach pain, no, it's going to make it worse. If you have Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, no, we usually don't want you to do that because it could aggravate it more. If you are pregnant, you don't take ibuprofen. It can harm the fetus, especially during some of the farther along weeks. In some cases, they may want you to take it if you can't tolerate Tylenol. And even Tylenol can have side effects. But if you have a headache or you have some back pain in pregnancy, we're going to recommend Tylenol over ibuprofen. If you are over 75, you need to be very careful with how much ibuprofen you take because it can increase bleeding. Again, your kidney function. If you take an ACE inhibitor, like lisinopril, benazepril, captopril, you have to be very careful taking an anti-inflammatory because if they work on the efferent and afferent arteriole, one dilates the afferent arteriole, that's your ACE inhibitor, and one narrows your efferent, the two. So the arterioles are the little blood vessels going to the glomerulus, which is the root of kidney function. So if you have a constriction on one side from the anti-inflammatory and you have a dilation from the ACE inhibitor, you get a bottoming out and you could get a kidney injury. You're not supposed to be taking the two. If you have high blood pressure, it can increase your high blood pressure because of some of those vasoconstrictive effects. And I don't want to scare you all because I know you have a big, huge bottle of Advil. I do too. I have Advil for headaches. I love it. But what if my headache is because my blood pressure is elevated? Now, thank God I don't have elevated blood pressure. But for some of you who have headaches, are you sure it's not your blood pressure? And if it is your blood pressure, then don't be taking ibuprofen. That could raise your blood pressure more. So you see how you kind of need to consult a medical provider. For period cramps, I always recommend Tylenol. It's interesting because Midol, I think, has acetaminophen in it, not ibuprofen. And it's a pain reliever for the cramps. Now, some people will say take anti-inflammatories prior to the period. This way your muscles cramp less. But again, it could be thinning the blood and you could be bleeding heavier. So you need to be aware of that. And look, we have a lot of medications. We have a lot of over-the-counter medications. I walk into a Walgreens or a CVS and I am just overwhelmed by all the pharmaceuticals that you could get over the counter these days. You can now get birth control over the counter. But you have to understand that just because it's over the counter doesn't mean you don't consult a medical professional. Thank God for our pharmacists out there who are answering questions and are, able to answer a lot of the questions that your doctor should be doing, but you're not seeing your doctor. Getting birth control over the counter is increasing birth control, which is wonderful. But are these young girls getting STD screens? Are they getting pap smears when due? Are they getting their questions about sex answered? Are they being screened for abuse, assault, STIs? So, that just because something's over the counter doesn't mean it's 100% safe. We had the same discussion with the PPIs, the proton pump inhibitors. The proton pump inhibitors for stomach acid, you can't take those long term. There's side effects like pneumonia, bone fractures. I think there was even some studies linking cancer to long-term use. If you are constantly hitting antacids, somebody needs to identify that and figure out why. Is it that you have a tumor? Is it that you have an ulcer? Is it your diet? So just because something is a vitamin, just because something is a pain reliever, and the reason why they're over the counter is because for short-term, once in a blue moon use, they have some fairly decent safety profiles. But what happened is people aren't taking it for once in a blue moon. They're taking it long-term. You can't take long-term Tylenol. What does that do? It hurts your liver. You can't take these things long-term. Even these calcium supplements could cause kidney stones. There's even been some studies looking at the sediments of these calcium supplements and heart disease. Always consult a medical professional. Look at the brands. Make sure they're also good quality brands. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our Fantasy Football Pocket Guide for Beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So months ago, when we heard of the cause of death of Laken Riley, a 22-year-old nursing student who disappeared while on a jog on a Georgia campus back in February, when we found that she was murdered, raped, blunt force trauma to the head. Jose Ibarra, 26-year-old, was charged in connection with Riley's death. It caused national outcry for us to get our acts together and understand that this mess of a border policy has got to get fixed, as we are letting criminals come over there are migrants coming into this country who we want to be there for and we want to support. I'm a daughter of an immigrant, very grateful for us being able to have the opportunity. But when we have criminals, murderers, rapists coming over, it's a no-brainer. We get a border policy in place immediately. We had one. Biden reversed it. Well, now we're being told about another horrific case, the Rachel Morin murder. And the migrant was allegedly from El Salvador. He has been charged with the rape and killing of this mom from Maryland. She was on a hiking trail. They tracked him down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Apparently, his police matched the DNA to the gruesome crime scene. And even though you can never repair what was lost, the family may hopefully find some peace if he is convicted of and found guilty of this. Now, apparently, Martinez Hernandez allegedly has connections to Salvadorian street gangs, had a violent history that included at least one other homicide. According to New York Post, officials, Hartford County Sheriff Jeffrey Gawler said Victor Hernandez did not come to this country to make a better life for him or his family. He came here to escape the crimes he committed in El Salvador. He came here to murder Rachel. God willing, no one else. But that should have never been allowed to happen. He apparently illegally crossed into the U.S. in February 2023 after he viciously murdered another young woman, allegedly. He was in the U.S. for 6 months before he targeted Miss Morin. She was walking alone on the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail in Bel Air. They said her naked body suffered such severe trauma that the family said it looked like her head had been smashed with a rock, similar to Laken Riley. About a month after the killing, police matched the DNA to a sample recovered at the scene. And this was a scene of a home invasion and assault of a young girl in Los Angeles. Now, they said even though they had the DNA evidence and video from the break-in, they did not have an identity on the suspect until May. They tracked the alleged serial assailant at Tulsa 2 weeks ago and executed an arrest warrant just before midnight Friday. Now, I am very proud of our law enforcement for being able to do their work, but look how much time still passed. And I understand an investigation has to be done right, or people could be off the hook, let off the hook. But if we have murderers, we need to find them today. We need to deport them immediately. And we don't know how many other rapes and murders are happening. Now, mind you, American citizens could be doing them as well. But this is frightening. And I used to jog. I used to run. And when you go out for a run and you go out for a jog, you usually do it alone. I didn't have a lot of friends who liked to run, so I did my own running. And one of the reasons why I stopped running, one is I blew my knee out skiing. I was a lot more athletic. I know it's hard to tell now, but I was. But number two is I wasn't really living in the safest of areas. And I didn't know where I could run by myself where I would be safe. You would think a college campus, yeah. You would think a hiking trail. People on hiking trails are nature-loving individuals. They're just there to hike also. And unfortunately, this is where people want to find their next target, their next victim. And I don't want us in a world where if you're a girl, you can't run or jog alone. Look at that man in Philly who at 7 o'clock at night was walking his dog, got mugged and shot twice in the chest. And we believe that was an American citizen that did that. There's dangerous people. And I fear one of the reasons why we're exercising less is because people are fearful. Somebody walking alone is a target. Now, I'm concealed carry. I think the average person doesn't understand that many of us carry, so don't mess with us. Maybe we have to make ourselves known. I don't know. If you are going to do a home invasion, you'll get shot. Don't invade my home. But people with severe mental illness, they don't care. They grab, and people will say, gosh, with rape, can't you fight back? Can't you scratch your eyes out? Can't you pee on them? Can't you try to stick your finger down your throat and gag and vomit? Many times your assailant wants you motionless, and they will knock you unconscious. You won't have a chance to fight back. And so it's a shame. If you can't jog, I used to jog on college campuses. If you can't jog on college campus, if you can't, right now, don't be alone. Be very careful who you're with. I exercise at a gym rather than exercise. I mean, I'll walk the dog, but I always walk the dog with a family member. Although we ran into a snake. There was a really interesting, I think it was a coach whip snake. I posted it on my Facebook and on my Twitter. There's a lot of snakes in southern Nevada. Fascinating species. Sadly, it was dead. I think something ran over it. And I don't know why it was out in the middle of the heat, but it was just sitting out there outside on the sidewalk. But, we have a migrant problem, not a innocent family seeking refuge problem, but gotaways, people illegally crossing, and then they're committing crimes. The reason why these other countries have very strict policies is because they have limited resources. They have limited resources with their hospitals. They have limited resources with their baby formula. They have limited resources with their food, with their medications, and with their law enforcement. America has limited resources too. We do have limited resources with our law enforcement, with our baby formula, with our hospitals and medical centers, with our medical personnel, with our schools, and with our educators. That is evidence enough to say, look, we need to have a smarter border process. And then on top of that, people are getting through. A lot of people didn't like the wall idea. I loved the wall idea. President Trump said, build a wall. The reason why I loved it is because Border Patrol asked for it. We go to who is managing the Border Patrol and say, what do you guys need? Which is what Kamala Harris should have done as border czar. In her defense, there's a chance that the Biden administration said, no, don't outshine us. Just do what we say. You're going to be doing that as name only. But if I was vice president, they said, Daliah, you are border czar. I would be on a plane or in a car down there that next second. I would meet with every Border Patrol, customs agent, any border towns, law enforcement. What do you guys need? I would bring back that list and I would make sure that happened. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.